We're live again, once again, riding on in. It's the Outlaw Posse now in effect. And today we got an extra posse member up in here, Jonathan Lewis. We have to have an extra big horse for him. You know, him being the Jolly Green Giant and all, he could probably walk a horse instead of sitting on one.
What am I, 7'9" now?
That's right. Give us a little rundown of your podcast that you're doing. You're back in action now, so give us a little rundown.
Yeah, college football with Jonathan Lewis on YouTube. That's pretty much it. If JPC is nice, he would put it in the description, put a link to it. I have to show him how to do it because he's about 150 years old, so I got to show him how to do all this stuff.
That's right. I am a Highlander. I am from the breed once known as the Sabanites.
How old was Moses in the Bible?
I don't know. Methuselah was the oldest.
Oh, Methuselah. That's what I was thinking. Not Moses. Yeah, like 800 or 900 years old.
Today, the topics we're going to touch on is the NCAA apocalypse that I think is coming from this settlement. They actually settled out of court for $2.7 billion. I thought that was the amount they were trying to get away from, but actually, from the article that I was reading and Jonathan was reading, they was going to be in lieu of $4 billion had they not settled out of court, and now it's going to be spread out. We'll touch on that. The Big Ten and UCLA having to pay calimony, as they call it, to Cal.
Yep.
The Board of Regents in California are making UCLA pay them part of their Big Ten revenue, which I think is complete horse shit. I may end up forcing the Big Ten and UCLA to invite Cal into the Big Ten to try to offset some of that money. I don't know. And then the article I stumbled on before I got on the show looks like Penn State is having some more troubles and shadiness going on. Thought we got away from the Sandusky situation, and now 10 years later we got James Franklin trying to fix medical records for players and whatnot. So where do you want to start tonight, Jonathan?
I think we'll start on the board for the antitrust agreeing on $2.7 billion. But before I give my opinion on that, you got to try this. I never had this, the Crown Royal Whiskey Lemonade. Just going to throw it out there real quick. Anyways, getting over to this was much expected. The SEC, I believe, and the Pac-10, whatever you want to call them, I believe are the only ones left to vote. But they said by this week, they'll have voted and agreed upon a settlement. $2.7 billion will actually go back. It's a back pay, right, for prior athletes. So they don't really outline yet how specific this is going to be as far as is more money going to be given to the, you know what I mean, the athletes that brought more attention. How far back does this go? You know what I mean? Stuff like this. But they did outline that they expect the conferences to get $20 million per year moving forward to give to the athletes. So, but yeah, the retroactive amount is $2.7 billion with a B dollars. Are you surprised at the amount, JPC?
Yeah, I didn't think it would be that much, but I thought that was the total they were trying to get around. But now it says that they would have been probably on the hook for $4 billion plus had they not settled out of court. And also mentioned the fact that, you know, for all these colleges and universities out there, even the mid-card type programs out there like the Boston colleges of the world and stuff, and Wake Forest is, even those programs are clearing hundreds of millions of dollars. And I just, you know, it's hard for me to feel sorry for them, especially with talking about the coaching. The coaches, the assistants and whatnot were making upwards of tens of millions of that. And yet you don't want to pay the players who are like employees, to be honest with you. It's just like the NFL. Those players get paid. I mean, I understand you're not supposed to get paid as much because you're basically learning your trade in college, minor leagues, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and that's always been kind of wishy-washy as well, because you are correct. The NFL, the coaches typically make more. Not, you know what I mean, now, not compared to the quarterbacks. Not compared to some players, obviously you're going to have the ones that are making way more. But like I said, I'm interested to see the guidelines they're going to put out on how much, because if I'm a former player, if I'm a star player like Derrick Henry from Alabama or somewhere like that. Like I'm curious on what is my amount going to look like compared to somebody that was a no name, but still was a scholarship player on the team, and how are they going to go about dispersing this money? They're not dispersing $100,000; they're dispersing $2.7 billion. So, what is that going to look like?
Yeah. Do players like Derrick Henry really need that money?
No, they don't, but they're deserving of the money.
I think it's more about the players that never made it in the NFL that were wanting their piece of the pie and maybe, complain about some health issues they've had from playing college football, the CTE thing and all that stuff.
Oh, and I understand that. But the bigger players bringing more attention still deserve more of the pie. That's all there is to it. That's anywhere you go. That's like saying the WNBA needs to be paid the same amount as the NBA. We know that's not the case. So, the fact of the matter is give the guys the money. They're deserved, and they've been deserving of for, since football was invented as far as college football goes. Ridiculous. And I had to get this comment up here. It says maybe that stuff will help Jonathan Lewis get his drinking, will help him grow a decent beard. No, if anything, it's probably going to do the opposite. This stuff, there's no telling what type of additives are in this thing. But still good. There's a peach one I bought too. The whiskey lemonade is better. Anyways, I'm not trying to get sponsored by Crown though, but if you're listening. All right, but moving on from that. And one of the biggest hypocrites of that, by the way, we know is Dabo Swinney.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be paying players.
I was just taking up one the other day. And now I'm starting to rethink my position a little bit because I'm like, damn, dude, y'all making $12, $15 million a year, and these players are barely getting by. Well, not barely getting by, but they're not really, making out. They are now.
Some of them were barely getting by. I mean, you hear some of the stories. I forgot the name of the Tennessee running back that had a Netflix documentary done on him, and he did an interview. You guys in the comments, let me know who it was. He went to the Houston Texans. I believe he was undrafted or he was super late. Anyways, he did this whole spiel on he was having to borrow money from the coaches to go get like $1 cheeseburger because he literally could not afford, you don't have enough time to work at the time because he's like, you were doing 2 a days. You could barely walk, much less work. And you're going to class full time. So, yeah.
And changing gears here a little bit, that whole James Franklin situation at Penn State, we're just talking about that off the air, being the shadiness at Penn State just can't go away, man.
Jesus.
Not one doctor, but 2 doctors have come forward and testified against Franklin and said that he tried to interfere in the medical treatment of players who tried to commit suicide, was one of them. Basically, he wanted to, I guess, take the guy's scholarship away or something, but he was trying to alter records of numerous players. I don't know whether it was just to open up scholarships or whether he was trying to get them on the field so they could play. And you know how touchy they are about the whole protocol situation where the concussions are concerned.
Yes, yeah.
That's a real big no-no. And this thing could blow up to the point where, hell, they may even fire James Franklin.
You deserve to be fired. Plain and simple. There's no getting around this. The fact that not one but 2 doctors have came forward, one of them showing and testifying that a player was willing to commit suicide, right? He had suicidal ideations, went to a mental health, to a psychiatrist saying these things. I'm on the brink of committing suicide. And then your response, along with, by the way, it wasn't just James Franklin. I believe it was I want to say it was the AD. It was somebody along with Franklin saying, we'll just pull his scholarship and give it to somebody else. So that would remove any help he could get, by the way, from the university. So basically, you're going to throw this dude on the street when he's sitting here talking about wanting to commit suicide.
Yeah, and it says here in the article, like you said, that Penn State's director of athletic medicine and orthopedic consultant, the football team, declined to follow Franklin's and Barber's request.
Barber, who? Yeah, it was Barber. Is that the AD? I don't know who that is.
Former Penn State, former.
Yep.
Former Penn State athletic director Sandy
There we
Barton
go.
tried to get him disqualified from the team, which would have created a scholarship spot for Franklin to use for another player.
That's horrible. That is fucking bottom of the barrel as a human being. Your moral compass is so screwed up. Congratulations. Killback first?
Yep, Killback first he's now mounted up and saddled up, and he's ready to go. He's going to be a part of the outlaw posse. So I have to give him a shout out on the next podcast. He's got his badge and he's now deputized.
I like
We got plenty of people in here deputized tonight. It seems like there's a full posse tonight. We got Killer Breeze and Jonathan's even got a badge, as well as Fred Bagley. So if you don't want to get that badge, it's $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. So join button, next subscribe button, just smash that and you'll get a random Four Horsemen shout out on the podcast, as well as possibly be the comment of the day.
I like the profile photo. But anyways, moving on. Beyond that, yeah, he deserves to be fired. There needs to be, I mean, in my opinion, you're literally trying to refuse medical help to somebody on your football team that you know needs help. I think there needs to be charges pressed against you. That's not going too far, in my opinion. Mental health like that. Look, I'm going to say this. Hopefully nobody gets offended by this shit. You got transgender problems. That's one thing. But if you're talking about you're literally going to kill yourself and your head's hurting all the time and there is you were getting screwed up on the football field, you need help. You know what I mean? Like the university deserves to give you that help. So there is a difference.
What about this lawsuit that's percolating from Jaden Rashada against Florida?
That is messy. And it's not just against Florida. It's against Billy Napier as well.
Yeah, they said he was promised $13.85 million. Yeah.
And then the Florida, the Gator Collective couldn't come up with the money. So this is when this whole NIL deal thing first started. Rashada was one of the first ones to receive a deal. And the Gator Collective kind of got a little bit too ahead of themselves and offered him money that they didn't have in the pot yet, which is why supposedly he backed out. And now he's suing. Now, I don't think it's a good look for Rashada. Rashada's moved on. You're making NIL money now, and he is. Like, he's signing NIL deals now. So I don't understand the point of coming back and after just let it go.
Well, it's because he's not making out. I mean, he didn't make out at Arizona State. Now he's transferred to Georgia, and he's way down the depth chart. So I think now he says, well, I'm going to try to get some money out of Florida.
Yeah, because he knows he's not going to be an NFL quarterback most likely now, so he's trying to scrape from what he can get from what he supposedly should have got at Florida.
That's why we need a new governing body, which you've been clamoring for years.
Yes.
And we need collective bargaining so we can shut these parents down and shut these rogue agents down.
Exactly. Like, I like the Gator Collective. The concept is, I do like the concept of the Gator Collective. For the people out there that don't know what it is, it's basically, it's a collection, like it's called the Gator Collective, of, we'll just call them boosters, right? Of people that bring in donors, that bring in money to donate to this NIL collective. They get, or we can't call it NIL collective, just to the collective, right? That's given to the university to give to the players, to give it straight to the players. It's illegal. But either way, it goes to the players. The concept is really cool. It's really nice. The problem is that you're not given one check in, like, we'll say at the beginning of the year to say, here's $10 million to use on players. No, it's basically formed and it's dependent upon people donating throughout the year to build this trust up to give out to the NIL. And the problem is that, yes, they said we're going to give you $13.8 million, but it was over the course of 4 years and you're not getting it all up front. And his presumption was, I'm getting it all up front. Nobody in their right mind should think you're getting $13.8 million up front for 4 years when you can transfer. That doesn't make sense to me.
Until they get some rules in place where you have to sign contracts, there's no way you can guarantee that kind of money. If you do, you're going to be broke as a university. Yes. It don't matter if you're Texas A&M or Texas and have all the oil money in the world. Eventually, your pocket's going to run dry from those kind of deals if you were making those kind of deals. Killer Breeze says that doesn't offend him. Jonathan, what offends him is people counting games before 1947. That shit offends me.
But I've dealt with people on my channel though, like, because I'll talk about people that need help, and they're like, "Well, don't get me started on this stuff." But this shit will turn very anti-liberal. So, yeah, very quick.
Anti-liberalism, what?
As in, like I said, so one of them was I did a video last year at the beginning of this was almost a 2-year-old video. I did one on CTE and college football players. And basically, I had somebody coming in there in the comments, and this blew up. It got way out of control, talking about it shouldn't be. Basically, they're blaming the players. They're saying the players are getting on the football field, so they're creating their own mental health problems, so they shouldn't need help. They shouldn't be receiving help because they're creating their own problems.
Yeah.
Right? Come to find out, the person that was leaving the comment, another commenter came in and attached like a bunch of videos that she's commented on before, not on my channel, but another channel. And I guess she was a transgender or something like that. And she's going around advocating for mental health for transgenders because she's claiming they have the highest suicide rate and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And this one video, it blew up. It just ignited.
Well, I mean, she's basically putting her foot in her own mouth. I mean, she's basically admitting that transgenderism is not really a thing. It's a made up word that's a mental health issue.
Yeah, and
they think there's something I'm not. It'd be like me running around thinking I'm Spider-Man trying to climb the damn walls at Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is CTE has proof. There's scientific proof this is affecting you. Now, does it give you a pass for what you do? We'll say Aaron Hernandez. No, absolutely. It doesn't give you a pass for that, but it can be definitely a contributor. So, and you definitely need help.
Well, if James Franklin were to say something like, "Oh, football didn't cause that," that would light a big old fire because we all know that the kind of stuff that goes on in football, man. As much as we like football, we all know that the elephant room is that it's absolutely causing the CTE issues. Fred Bagley says it's not a good look for Rashada. He just wants to get what he will never get in the NFL.
You're 100% correct.
Mary Caroline's finally back. Holla, holla. Hey, everyone. My favorite name in the world.
Turd Ferguson
is up in the house. The big old elephant on there. I assume Turd must be an Alabama fan.
It's an elephant turd.
Now, the other topic that I had up here was the Big Ten and UCLA being, well, actually, UCLA is being forced to pay what they call calimony to California. California University and the Board of Regents in the state of California leave it up to them to do something screwed up like this. Wonders do cease. But now they're having to pay California a part of their Big Ten earned monies because they left California behind when they joined the Big Ten and California didn't get an invite and they're going to join the ACC. Is it possible that maybe the Big Ten is forced to add California because of this so they can help UCLA, or is UCLA going to end up having to drop out of the Big Ten and maybe go to another conference so they don't have to pay California?
No, this year there will be something formulated. There will be some agreement made, some huge amount of money that will be paid out to even this out. I don't think it's going to last very long. I think it's one of those, they're going to take the money they can get this year, formulate a lawsuit, right, and then come with a lawsuit probably for a couple $100 million and bring that money into California. I mean,
I just don't think
California.
I just don't think it's fair. I mean, I guess UAB could ask Alabama to give them money since they're in the same state, whatever, and we're in the SEC and they're not in the SEC.
Yeah, I'll revert back to this. Maybe the WNBA should sue the NBA.
I mean, think about it, though. I mean, the Big Ten's the one that's always ballyhooing their AAU requirements.
Yes.
Oh, we have universities that are academically inclined. All right, then. Y'all need to add California and Stanford then. Y'all the ones that's saying it really matters when we all know it doesn't matter. It's just something that they cling on to try to make themselves feel like they're higher than any of the other universities and the other conferences out there, like the Big 12 conference and the SEC and the ACC, which is about to be extinct, just like the Pac-12, in my opinion. What's your take on that? You think the ACC, I see North Carolina suing them now, Clemson.
Everybody's going after the ACC right now.
And you know, and a lot of people said, our buddy Kuz was like, they'll never get 7 or 8 teams to up and leave. Well, looks like they might. Looks like 7 or 8 teams may get together and leave, and that will shatter that grant of rights. And that way, at that point, they can all go and join whatever conference they want.
Yeah, it takes a majority rule for that to dissolve, and I think they may end up getting it. It's coming close to that now, so I think they may need 1 or 2 more teams. And your biggest contributors right now are the ones suing you. So I think it's only a matter of time now till that completely goes away. But I'm going to revert back to the $2.7 billion being dispersed out to the athletes. One thing it never points out, which I found funny, where does this money come from? I think that's a question that needs to be asked. Like $2.7 billion doesn't just formulate out of thin air. The NCAA doesn't make that per year.
You mean that Joe Biden and them don't print money just for the hell of it?
Well, we're giving a lot of money to Ukraine. We're giving a lot of money to Israel. We're giving a lot of money to a lot of other countries that we don't have. So I'm assuming this is going to be kind of done the same way. We're going to give them $2.7 billion. Okay, from what? The taxpayers' wallet? Like, what are we doing here?
Donnie says, are there CTE issues in other sports? We just hear about football. What about hockey? Your head is bouncing off hard ice.
Absolutely.
NASCAR doing 200 miles an hour and slamming into the wall. What does that do?
I mean, I know this is not CTE and it's extreme, but the way Dale Earnhardt died, you know what I mean? You go from 160 miles an hour, 180 miles an hour to a complete right turn into a wall, into a stop. That's going to do something to you. Yeah, it's multiple. I think we have rugby teams in the U.S. We have lacrosse. We have hockey. You definitely have a lot of other sports. Hell, you have basketball players knocking their heads against the wood on the floor when they fall.
Well,
you know what I mean? So
I didn't think this was possible, but they said that a lot of soccer players got CTE from headbutting the ball. You know, when they head the ball. I can imagine. But you wouldn't think that because the ball's not really that heavy, you know. But
it's not. But when somebody's kicking it towards you at like 60 miles an hour and you butt it.
Yeah, but they're like intentionally butting the ball.
I know. But it's part of the game. But yeah. What does Killer Bree say below it? I think the communist sport soccer causes more concussions than any sport. And I mean, to be fair, they have more players, more teams, more of everything, more viewership, more money.
They don't wear helmets either. So.
No, they definitely don't. UFC, like Fred Bagley pointed out, boxing and other combat sports like UFC, boxing. I'm sure Mike Tyson has CTE. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure Lennox Lewis had CTE.
Mike Tyson was probably born with CTE. He's acting like a crazy ass spastic since the day he's born.
But he put out a good grill, though, didn't he? In every household.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, I just hope he don't bite that guy's ear off. Last time he fought somebody, didn't he bite the ear off? No, he didn't. He didn't bite Floyd Mayweather.
No. It was Holyfield.
Who was he fought though in that exhibition match that he fought?
Jake Paul.
Roy, the one before that, he fought like a little charity match against old
Pacquiao or Mayweather.
No, it was Roy. Can't remember his last name. Someone help me out.
Jones Jr.
Yeah, Roy Jones Jr.
Oh, you're talking about Tyson.
Yeah, Tyson fought.
Oh, Tyson. Sorry, I thought we were talking about Jake Paul or whatever. I was like, wait, hang on a minute.
I'm talking about Jake Paul. I was worried about his ears.
Oh,
I just hope Tyson don't get pissed off in the middle of the fight and decide to bite the shit out of him because that's what he did against Evander. He beat him twice.
Yeah, he did.
I'm like, why in the hell did they let that boxing match go on after he bit him the first time?
Dude. It's like you see UFC, these guys get kicked in the junk like multiple times sometimes. It's like, how are you standing up? Dude's almost throwing up and puking. Like, no, if I'm getting kicked in the junk, I'm done. You can call me not tough or whatever you want.
I was talking to my little multi-chat on Facebook, and a lot of the Oklahoma fans were telling me that they weren't coming to participate. They were coming to dominate.
Who said this?
Some Oklahoma fans.
When's Oklahoma dominated?
They're coming into the SEC to dominate. Not to participate, but to dominate.
But my question is when have they dominated college football?
Well, I mean, they've dominated the Big 12 for quite some time. So
When have they dominated college football? Not the Big 12, not Baylor, Texas Tech, TCU.
look, man, they got 50 conference championships, man. Don't you know that? They are the number one team since 1947, since the God of all gods come under thee, Bud Wilkinson.
1947, coincidentally.
That's when the earth was created, too.
Oh, my
I think
God.
Adam and Eve come around about 1947. They pulled an apple out of their ass or something. I don't know.
Oh, man. No, but seriously, though, one of my favorite players actually played for Oklahoma. I wrote a paper on Boz. Yeah. Oklahoma dominated football in the 50s, 70s, and the 80s. I mean, I think Alabama won a couple championships in that time frame too.
They did.
Know.
Now we dipped in the 80s a little bit.
Yeah.
But in the 90s, Oklahoma dipped quite profusely, I might add.
But I mean, 80s.
With John Blake and Gary Gibbs and those characters. They don't like Howard Schnellenberger too much, but Howard Schnellenberger did win a national championship at Miami and put them on a course to be the dominant force they were for quite some time. But for some reason, he can only last a year at Oklahoma. I don't know what the deal was there. He said he was a drunk, that he went in there and done some shady shit to their actual records, that kind of deal.
Fred Bagler coming to compete like everybody else. Yeah, no, of course.
Now we're just messing with you, man.
Yeah, we're just messing with you guys. We actually like Oklahoma. So.
No, actually, Killer started that shit tonight, not me. My point was, I was just curious, since we're playing y'all in Norman, because I can't remember. Now, this is a serious question for Oklahoma fans. I can't remember. When was the last time that y'all had your ass, totally handed to you in Norman? When was the last time y'all got blowed out in Norman?
The last time I can remember Oklahoma getting blowed out. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong here. 2 years ago by Texas, yes or no? Was it by Texas?
Wasn't in Norman.
No, not in Norman.
I'm talking about
Oklahoma in general.
I'm talking about Norman. In Norman. When was the last time Oklahoma got blowed out in Norman?
I can do some Google searching here. I'm sure it's taking a while.
Yeah. The reason I want to know is because Alabama's pretty apt at going into hostile environments sometimes and doing stuff that people don't think can get done, other than Auburn. Auburn's got our number in Auburn. But, like, once upon a time we went to Athens, and they had this thing called the blackout.
Oh, God,
and,
I remember that shit.
It was a blackout in Athens. Alabama Power went in there and turned the lights out on the hedge pissers, and we blew them out in Athens, which nobody else has been able to seem to do. And I'm thinking probably since Oklahoma hasn't been blowed out in Norman in quite some time, I'm thinking y'all probably do. And maybe in late November, I don't know, might end up 42-7 or something.
You're saying Alabama's going to win 42-7? Holy shit. He said that, by the way. Not me.
Look, y'all going to win all the other games, but when we play y'all Norman, it's going to be time to show y'all exactly what we do to opposing venues. Ask LSU. Everybody talks about how intimidating LSU is. Since 1969, Alabama has they got like a 85% winning rate at Baton Rouge. They used to call it West Tuscaloosa.
It's sort of like the SEC championship game. It's East Alabama.
And if we go to Norman, Oklahoma on that shit, well, we can call it West Tuscaloosa. We can call it more West Tuscaloosa.
More. You're so stupid.
We call it, I don't know, the Trail of Tears or something. I don't know.
I guess if you beat like Missouri, Texas A&M, Texas, and Oklahoma, where it's like literally leaving a trail going to the further west, that'd be the only way.
Neo Agani said it's not going to happen anytime soon. Well, you're right. It's not going to happen in the next few months.
You're ridiculous.
Once November rolls around, we're going to find out who the real Crimson team is.
It is interesting, though, because we're facing Oklahoma and Norman now. Like me and you have been wanting to see Alabama and Oklahoma games.
Y'all don't go and unsubscribe to me. I didn't start this shit. Killer Breeze.
Yeah, he did.
He lit
Blame it on the Killer.
He left, And then he took off. Where's he at now? He's out there
That's what he does.
Playing with his damn poodle out there at the lake.
Suppose when there's great weather, it's not tornadoes rolling through for once, so probably eating some
I'm
corn
drunk,
dogs.
crazy, or high if he thinks that is going to happen. Y'all came to Norman 2003 and got your asses whooped. Actually, we played that game pretty close. In the first half, y'all were up big, and we came back, and we almost won that game. Y'all held on for a last-minute victory, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure it ended up being pretty close. Now, y'all did beat us by double digits in that Sugar Bowl.
Sugar
Bob
Bowl,
Stoops
yeah.
called. And I actually got Bob Stoops credit for that. You know, they're doing a little something this year for Memorial Stadium at Oklahoma. It's the 100th year of Oklahoma's Memorial Stadium. So for each home game, they're going to have a theme. Well, the Alabama game, the theme, and they done like 4 different coaches, but the Alabama theme is Bob Stoops era. Now, how ironic is that? Is that not just a little dig at Alabama, you think?
Yeah, it is.
It's got to be, because Bob Stoops used to talk all sorts of mad smack
Yes.
to the SEC and how he wasn't scared of them, and he backed it up. That's what pissed people off, because he backed it up. Bob Stoops was 3-0 against Alabama.
Yep.
So it's time for Bob to take a loss. It's time for him to see.
I mean, that is a good lineup though. Bob Stoops during that game, yeah.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the year it's the Bud Wilkinson, or it might be Barry Switzer first, but there's a Barry Switzer game, and there's a Bud Wilkinson game, and a Benny Owens game, and then there's a Bob Stoops game, and the other two are great moments of Oklahoma history or something like that.
That'd be neat to go to and see. I bet they'll be giving out some memorabilia or something.
You say, I heard Baton Rouge just split apart. Which part is LSU in now?
Oh God.
What's that all about?
I heard Baton Rouge just split apart. I'm not quite sure unless you're talking. I don't know.
I know. Was there a hurricane here recently?
No.
The only team that can go in and dominate LSU and Baton Rouge is Alabama. Just so you know. Everybody else is scared to go down there. Me and Jonathan's going to go down there and holler Roll Tide. We're going to get some of them Crimson Tide and Tide detergent boxes and take up the tradition of them 2 old men that died.
Yeah.
And put some toilet paper on top.
On each side. Yeah.
That's right.
I remember that.
1989 M says OU and Bama in a conference game is going to be an awesome moment for us all. Yeah. What do you think about the idea that one day the Big Ten and the SEC are going to merge and have one commissioner and have one big league, sort of like the AFL and the NFL did?
That's not the SEC and the Big Ten merge.
That's right.
That's not going to ever happen. The Big Ten makes too much money. They make more than SEC.
Well, I know, but
They're not going to want to merge.
If we pushed out the Big 12 and the rest of everybody else and made them have their own little league, and then you could have just the Big Ten and the SEC. The Big Ten and the SEC could go and cherry pick the ACC and the Big 12 for their best teams, and then have about a 50-team league or something, 60-team league.
Yeah, that's like 50 years apart. We're 50 years from that. That would be insane. So I couldn't find like a worse loss for Oklahoma.
Maybe Fred Bagley or Killer Breeze or somebody, or Eric Taco Marino can tell us, when was the last time Oklahoma got blowed out in Norman? Because I don't remember them getting blowed out in Norman, ever. Now, they might have back in the John Blake era, because that was pretty horrid. So I'm betting it was probably in the late 90s, early to mid-90s, late 90s, somewhere along in the 1990s, maybe.
This list I'm getting is like, they're not getting blown out, but they're losing to teams that are like not good. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not finding anything.
Kilbree said Baton Rouge just won a Supreme Court decision to create their own town called St. George. Is that a joke? Because I know your first name is George, and you're an LSU alumnus. So you trying to say they named a town after you in Baton Rouge, Killer? Is that what you're saying, man?
Let's see.
He said they did it because they were tired of public schools being filled with kids that were causing trouble. They didn't want to create their own school district. Well, now, St. George, it is.
Yeah, I mean, they go by parishes too instead of counties.
Said Nebraska put an ass whipping on us in the 1990s. Well, we haven't been able to find it. They might have beat you, but I'm talking about like an ass whipping. I'm talking about at least 20 points. 2 touchdowns don't constitute an ass whipping to me.
Yes, he is correct. Baton Rouge was split into 2 cities. New city to be named St. George. And is this it may be a typo, but they spelled Saint, right? ST, then GEROGE. Is that a typo or no? Yeah, it's a typo. Or no? I can't tell.
No telling, man. You know how they spell the word go, right?
Yeah, I know. GEAUX.
Yeah, man. Who the hell takes 5 letters to spell go? What dummy come up with that idea?
Let's see here.
Come on now. You got to set them Cajuns right, Jonathan. We got them in between Alabama and Mississippi, and they could learn how to spell the word go. It's G-O.
Oh, God, they're already making it a race issue.
Well,
they're saying
let's be honest about it now.
Opponents argue St. George organizers take money and tax revenue from the local government. They also claim the city will most likely be white and could threaten Baton Rouge schools.
Eric Taco Marino said 35-7. K-State beat Oklahoma in Norman. Damn. I can't believe you sure that wasn't in Manhattan, Kansas? That is an ass whooping. If K-State can do it, I know Alabama can. And we done beat the shit out of K-State.
Said the Big 12 paid ex-commissioner $7. Damn.
What's going to sound like?
See, this is where all this money goes, right here, right? Former Big 12 Conference Commissioner Bob Bowlesby, who stepped down from his position in 2022, was paid more than $17.2 million in total compensation for his final year.
Who?
Bowlesby, the ex Big 12 commissioner. He was getting $12.2 million, but they gave him $17.2 million just to give to him.
My question, like you said, where's that money coming from?
It's almost like there's just a little troll walking around with huge lump sums of money that they're just throwing around to people.
There's some huge ass whippings from Nebraska, 69-7 and 73-21. You know, everybody talks about that Oklahoma and Nebraska rivalry like it's, you know, it's a real, you know, good rivalry that the fans get along and it's a lot of sportsmanship in it. But I'm not too sure about that because Nebraska used to run the score up on them, and then they did the same shit to Nebraska. I think in the early 2000s. They used to run the score up on each other. Yeah. You don't ever see Alabama or Auburn trying to put more than 60 points on each other. You just don't never see it. Alabama's had an opportunity a couple of times to do it and pull back on.
So I guess so I'm not trying to swap topics here, but
I'm talking about Norman. I ain't talking about Lincoln. I'm talking about just Norman.
I know what you're talking about, but I'm talking about there's this article that's being written, which I'm surprised it's by ESPN, saying that Deion Sanders is basically folding right now, like he's coming apart.
I know shit.
And I'm surprised that ESPN wrote it.
Well, ESPN knows the worm's turning.
So they built this timeline of everything on his YouTube channel and how everything's starting to decline and these players are starting to leave.
Yeah, because he's a what? He's a con man. And sooner or later, you know, con men, their con is up, man. You can't just keep conning people and getting away with it. Sooner or later, someone's going to catch on to that shit. And he's a con man.
Yeah.
He's all flash, man. And it works for a little while. And it worked a long time at Jackson State because he was able to get players that other predominantly black colleges weren't able to get because of his famous stature and whatnot. He was able to get certain players and have an advantage over those teams. But once he gets to this level, his star ain't much brighter than all these other guys.
Well, this is my biggest problem I have with Deion Sanders. Number one, I can't remember the name. You know the name of the dude he poured the water on when he was playing baseball.
Jim
The
McCarthy.
report. There we go. The reporter or the journalist poured water on him for basically no damn reason, which should light everybody up, right? And then, what, in my opinion, what he did this offseason, look, a coach should never go after a player, right?
Yeah.
And the player,
Yeah.
that is, I'm sorry, that's low. You're a coach. You're supposed to have better standards than that. You shouldn't be propping your son up to go after this player, right? Like that was kind of like the final straw for me on Deion. I was like, yeah, this dude is a piece of work.
Even his son was talking that shit. His son was like, I don't even know who this guy is. I'm like, he's on your team, jackass. That just goes to show you the snotty ass attitude that he's instilled in both of his offsprings, who are both jackasses just like him.
Yeah, and then he tries to backtrack when people called him out on it and realize the hate he was receiving from it, talking about, oh, I wasn't attacking him. No, you were retweeting everything your son was putting out there and putting Lord Jesus and everything else on it, basically instigating for people to go look this dude up. And that's what was going on. He openly said people were dropping him messages threatening him because of what Deion was putting out there.
He gets mad when people call him out on the shit, but then he's in his press conference, I ain't got a problem being criticized. Every time somebody criticizes you, you lose your damn shit, man. You lose your noodle.
Yeah, like the more I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. I tried. I was trying. You know that. I was trying to be unbiased. It didn't. It doesn't work.
And you could see it a mile away, man. It was just what happened was the worst thing could have happened for the Colorado fans was them winning them first 3 games.
Yep.
Because all it did was mask what this guy was, which is not a head coach. He's not a head coach. You might be able to pull that shit on a Division III level type SWAC school, but you can't do that on the big time, man. I mean, it's the big time. You got coaches out there that are getting 4- and 5-star athletes, and Deion's still trying to get 3 stars and transfer portal players. He's getting everybody's retreads. Everybody's ballyhooing. Oh, he's got the #1 transfer portal class. They're used goods, man. Most of them, 60-70% of them never work out. They end up like Jaden Rashada going from team to team and then deciding to sue the very first team that signed him.
Cormani McLean left him. The star corner, the #1 corner, came to your school, talked about he came there to be taught by Deion, left him after 1 year.
Yeah.
That should throw a red flag up.
I think Deion he's having a problem coming to grips that, he's not really that dude anymore. Just like a lot of these famous people do. And then he's trying to live vicariously through his son and force the issue. Just like LeBron James trying to force the issue with his son who only averages 6 points a game.
And then lied about his height. Somebody was 6'4".
Shit! Did he do that?
Yeah, he lied about his height.
I saw something today, and I didn't click on it. Was that what that was about?
I mean, it was about a week ago where I guess he was claiming to be 6'4". Then they get to the combine and he's 6'1". So it's like, what the hell's going on here? But yeah, like nobody I hope drafts Bronny, and I'm not saying that because of him as a person. I'm saying that because if you don't have, I would rather not get in the NBA and get my head ripped apart because I'm on a team. Every player knows I'm on that team for one reason, because of who my dad is. It has nothing to do with your talent and your ability.
Well, these famous dads don't realize they're setting their players up to be ridiculed.
Yes. Look at the Ball brothers. You want a good example of that? LaMelo's worked out, but the others, where's the first one? I forgot his name already. I don't know, man. Now, the difference between, I guess I really won't go that deep on them because they actually had some talent. They put up numbers. They showed the ability to go there, whereas he is not. And what's even worse is he had a heart problem. He had to stop playing basketball to have a surgery that prevented him from touching a basketball for 6 months. That is horrible. I'm not saying to stop playing basketball, but like, damn.
If y'all don't mind, jump out of the chat real quick and smash that like button. It helps push the algorithm, and it pushes out to more people. You just take you 5 seconds to jump out, hit like, and then jump back in here. Neo Agani says the problem he had with Deion was him calling his team losers in 86 and most of the roster was a bad move.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he openly went in there, declared Shedeur as the automatic starter without evaluating anybody. Like, it's just like Fred Bagley says at the bottom. Deion will always put Deion first no matter what. That sums it up. You couldn't say it better.
Yeah, you think he's doing it for the love of his sons, but he's not. He's trying to live vicariously through his sons. That's all he's doing.
And look, I'm not going to blame the sons. If I'm Shedeur and I'm those guys, you damn right I'm taking the Rolexes. You damn right I'm taking the Louis Vuittons. You know what I mean? I'm not going to blame them for what they grew up in. Right. Blame the dad.
Johnny said Colorado lost to Stanford. That was worse than the beatdown they got from Oregon.
Yeah, you're right on that one.
Was
Stanford
was it 29-0?
Stanford was hot garbage.
Was that the team that come back from 29-0?
Yes, yes. And that's also the game where Shedeur was on Instagram during halftime.
Yeah, and Deion's like, I've never seen nothing. I don't understand it. I just don't understand it. You the head coach. You need to understand it. You the ones calling the plays in the third and fourth quarter. Come on, man. Take some damn accountability. That's the problem I have with Deion, man. Is he clamors and says that he takes accountability and he's a stand-up guy, and he's right the opposite, man. Right the opposite. Takes no accountability in anything. Never has, man. He's always lived off his little athletic ability. But from what I understand, as a defensive back, he was a shitty-ass tackler. He was just all about the interceptions.
Yeah. No. He was a lot like oh, my God. He's a lot like he was a corner in Alabama recently. He's at the Cowboys. He had 7 interceptions in his first, I think it was his damn rookie season or second season. I can't believe we're going to think of his name. I know the chat to help me out.
You can sit down.
The Alabama player to get drafted by the Cowboys that went to the Pro Bowl, I think his rookie or second season. He intercepts the ball, but damn does he give up touchdowns and yards. And for some reason, I can't remember his name.
How recent was it?
Just a couple. He was probably drafted about 3 or 4 years ago.
You ain't talking about Deshae Townsend, are you?
No. Cornerback out of Alabama. Let me see here.
Big Cojones Kelly says Con Time doesn't know how to build or coach a team. He's a rah guy. Yeah, like I said, it's easy to build a team with your notoriety and your fame when you're at a sort of like a Division III status conference in the SWAC. I mean,
Trevon Diggs.
They don't even enter the playoffs. The SWAC doesn't even. They're not even eligible for Division I AA, Division FCS playoffs. It's like a Division III conference. It's like the black version of the Ivy League, basically.
Trevon Diggs is who I was thinking about.
And since, the Big Ten, backtracking a little bit, since they're all about the AAU shit, why don't they invite Harvard and Yale into the conference? I mean, and that's what's important, right? I'm sure Harvard and Yale's got big endowments. I'm sure they got a huge alumni base. Why not bring them back into the fold? Let's bring Harvard in, Yale, shit, Penn, Cornell, Dartmouth. Didn't their players form some kind of union or something for their players?
I think they did.
I'm like, who the hell's going to pay anybody to play for Dartmouth?
Dartmouth. And we're scrolling to the news here. There's not really going on other than what we've done talked about.
What's that?
So I'm looking through the news. There's not really a lot going on right now. Who would you rather? Here we go. PFF asked a question. Who would you rather draft? Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels? Who would you rather have?
I would definitely rather have Jaden Daniels just because of the wars I've had with married Caleb Williams' fingernails. I really seriously believe that the first sign of controversy in Chicago for Mary Caleb is going to be the true test to see if he can mentally do it. He's got the physical tools and talent to do it. It's just his mental acumen is what I question.
Yeah, can he keep it together? And of all places you're going to Chicago. It is cold, miserable. Like, there's a reason why they've never had a good quarterback in Chicago. In like what? I'd say the last decent quarterback they've had there is Jay Cutler.
Yeah. And he was – that dude was just so damn moody and bipolar, man.
Yeah.
The last one who won the Super Bowl was Jim McMahon back in, I think it's the 84 season.
But they've never had an elite quarterback.
Ain't that when your mama pushed you out?
85. You were what? You were turning 45 that year?
Yeah, man. You come out, man. I bet you was like a little Groot, man, on the damn galaxy.
What?
Your hair, man, it sort of looks like Groot.
Oh, Groot. You're ridiculous.
You like the big version of Groot. You ever seen the big version of Groot?
No.
He's like 7'5". You might have him by now.
Here we go.
About 7'6", right?
You're dumb.
Minute Bowl.
So Fred Bagley said JD easy. Yeah, I think he has a higher ceiling than Caleb Williams does.
So let me ask you this. And out of all the teams in the SEC this year, who has a chance to be the surprise team? A team that maybe nobody's talking about. I ain't saying go with Vanderbilt because we all know that's obvious, but I'm saying like a middle-of-the-road team that could actually do it, that could actually spring up and maybe win the SEC title.
Oh, that's saying a lot. Win the SEC. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't. There's not going to – South Carolina, no. Vandy, no. Missouri, no.
If someone were to do it, someone middle of the road, maybe 4 or 5 spots down, not the top 4, not the ones you would think of. No Alabama, no Texas, no Georgia, no LSU.
What about – can I say Ole Miss?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it would have to be Ole Miss.
You know, Ole Miss has never been to the SEC title game.
They've never been?
Yeah, they're the only one out of the original 10 that's never been. Even Mississippi State went.
Oh, yeah, you said that last time. I forgot.
On the eastern side.
Yeah.
No, not eastern side, the western side. Now, on the east side, Vanderbilt and Kentucky never went.
Vanderbilt's not surprised.
But on the west side, the only western team that never made it is Ole Miss. But now they're doing away with divisions, so now they can be lumped in with Kentucky and Vanderbilt.
Well, how long was
and Oklahoma and Texas A&M.
How long was Bear Bryant at Kentucky?
I want to say he was there about 4 or 5 seasons.
Okay, yeah, he wasn't there that long, was he? Yeah, I didn't think he was.
I think he was first. He was at Maryland, and then he went to Kentucky.
Yeah,
he was only at Maryland for 1 season. He went to Kentucky for maybe 7 or 8 seasons, and he ended up at Texas A&M.
Yeah,
and then he come home to mama, as he called it. His words, not mine.
Yeah, no, I got you. Fred Bagley said, "Yeah, but Oklahoma's wouldn't be a surprise team."
It would be because they've been on the down spiral the last couple of years and sort of on the upswing now. 10-3, I guess it could be a surprise if Oklahoma were to come in and win it.
I mean, it would be a surprise, but it wouldn't be like, oh my gosh.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Just a middle of the road team that nobody's expecting. Oklahoma would fit that category probably.
Who do you think?
I would say Missouri.
Who do you think is going to be the biggest downfall? Who's going to make the biggest drop down? Who do you think has the potential to go from like 10-3 or 11-2 or whatever it may be? Like, I guess
according to how that quarterback pans out for him, I'd say Tennessee.
So you think Tennessee could drop to like 6-6 or 5-7?
Easy.
You know who I'm picking, right?
Who's that? I'm
picking Missouri. Missouri may win.
You got a lot of disrespect for Mizzou.
I do. I do not like Missouri at all. I can't even explain it.
I believe you the one that made that name up. You told Oklahoma people to whisper in my ear.
No, I didn't, but
It's
I do
Jonathan's
not like
fault.
Missouri.
Missouri fans, Jonathan told the Oklahoma people to start calling you mid-poo.
No, I did not. But
Missouri could drop, but they could be the team that wins it all.
No,
That's
I think
about Missouri.
Missouri's winning 6 games next
They
season.
went to 2 SEC title games.
Yeah, when they first came over.
Yeah, it should have been harder for them being over
Dude,
the first time.
when they came over, the East was in shambles.
You had Georgia over there.
Georgia was not doing anything. You know that.
And they were winning.
Wasn't.
They just weren't winning enough.
No, that was like Mark Rick's down years.
Yeah, Mark Rick was like winning SEC titles, and then this guy named Saban come along, and it's like, damn, he can't win shit. He runs out of time all the time.
Oh, man.
They run out of time, man. Give them a break.
I love when people say that shit.
And you know that's what
Mark Rick said. Time.
Mark Rick give you an explanation as to why they lost that 2012 SEC championship game. It's simply they run out of time, Jonathan. When you gonna get that? They're your thick ass skull, man.
So you're telling me
picking on the hedge pissers.
So you're telling me that football doesn't go past 60 minutes?
You could have tied the game, Mark, and you would have had overtime. Your sorry ass goes down to Miami and rolls over and quits after 3 years, bitch.
Well, he looked like shit in Miami. And his face during those games, he looked like he didn't even want to be there. He doesn't realize he made a mistake.
Have you seen Lincoln Riley before and after he went to USC?
He's aged 20 years. It's horrible.
He looks like Groot, man. He went from looking like Prince Valiant in Oklahoma to looking like Groot on Guardians of the Galaxy.
That's what happens when you got to deal with that damn pressure over there.
USC, man. They're the same team that fired Lane Kiffin on the tarmac. So,
yep. What do you expect?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I would say it's insane, but once again, we know the definition of insanity. Nothing's going to change. It's the same thing over and over and over again.
All right, brother. I think I'm about out of steam tonight. You want to go ahead and call tonight?
Yeah, there's nothing else really to talk about. So yeah, I think this is a good point. We're almost at an hour. So
all right. Well, just tell them where you can find them. Tell them about the podcast you've done today that you're going to release tomorrow and that kind of deal if you want to.
Yeah, college football with Jonathan Lewis on YouTube. We did a video today talking about Colorado's expectations, went over their schedule, win-loss total for Colorado, all that good stuff. We did one for Alabama. We did one for Oklahoma. I'm going to do one. I'm going to try to get some Texas fans and other fans and cover their schedules and release those as well. But, yeah, college football with Jonathan Lewis on YouTube.
All right, brother. Appreciate you being on tonight.
Y'all have a good night. Thanks for everybody commenting. And nice seeing everybody again.
All right, later. That was college football with Jonathan Lewis. Like he said, he's going to release a podcast tomorrow on the Colorado Buffaloes and con-time Deion Sanders and probably what's going to be the season where Deion loses his noodle right there in front of everybody. Donnie says Texas A&M is AAU. We keep hearing rumors about them jumping to the Big Ten. What are the chances of that? Yeah, I actually done a podcast on that, Donnie, about Texas A&M possibly leaving. Texas A&M's hatred for Texas is so great. You think Oklahoma people hate Texas? Texas A&M's been emasculated by them for quite some time. You know, at least Oklahoma has kept the series close. Oklahoma is within 12 games of Texas, I think. But they got a huge lead over Texas A&M. Texas A&M was promised by the SEC that they would not add Texas. So in a way, I can't blame Texas A&M for leaving. I don't think it's that Texas A&M is scared of Texas, even though a lot of people say that's what it is. I think it's because Texas just tries to strong-arm everybody and talk down to everybody. That's what happened with Nebraska. Nebraska's a perennial power back in the day. They're a blue blood from back in the day, and Texas used to try to domineer the conversations and have their own network. When you're in a conference, you're not supposed to have your own network. You're in a conference so you can split monies, and Texas didn't want to do that. Nebraska left, Texas A&M left, Colorado left, Missouri left, and I think Texas A&M, even though I give them a lot of hell, I think they're actually in the right on this. Yeah, so if they were to leave and go to the Big Ten, I would not blame them. Well, I mean, I'm trying to keep it a little short tonight, Scott Schrader. I wanted to give Jonathan a chance to get up out of here. He's got his kids over there tonight, so he's it's a little taxed tonight, so we're going to let him go early. I might stay in here for a few more minutes as long as y'all, keep me going. Smash the like button and share it out to your friends. Maybe get them up in here. Also, if you want to make a one-time donation to the program, there's a little money dollar sign at the bottom. You can click on that. Write your comment out. It'll push it to the top. I'll read your comment out, and you'll help keep the lights on around here. You can also join the Outlaw Posse, Scott. Get your badge, like Big Cajones Kelly and Fred Bagley and Jonathan Lewis, and be in the Outlaw Posse. $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. Get your badge, get deputized. Random Four Horsemen shout out on the actual podcast, and possibly the comment of the day. All right, Fred, you out of here too, huh? I was going to try to hang out for a little while longer since y'all still talking in here. Give y'all a chance to give me some questions before I dip. College football with Jonathan Lewis says always a blast with Fred Bagley, Big Cajones killing the rest of the posse. IBS neckbeard is out. Scott Schrader says send A&M back to the Big 12. That's possible. That's possible. I mean, they could probably actually win there. A lot of people have talked about Nebraska going back to the Big 12. Because, I mean, geographically speaking, and especially in the recruiting phases of everything, Nebraska is more of a fit for the Big 12, maybe even the SEC. Maybe we could trade Nebraska for Texas A&M. What do you say, Scott? You want to come on down? You want to come on down to the Deep South, the Deep Southwest, and the Deep Southeast. We'll take Nebraska in. The hell with it. Everybody's talking about adding Kansas. We add Kansas, add Nebraska. We'll be conjoined geographically correctly. Be the only conference that's still able to say that. Donnie says, how successful do you think SMU will be in the ACC? Well, the ACC's around in the next 4 or 5 years, Donnie. I think they can do decent. They got the support, the alumni and the boosters to do it. As we've seen in the 1980s, it got them put on probation to the point where they were given the death penalty. They're going to make reparations, by the way. That's a university that they should make reparations to, because the shit that SMU did while they were being a little too blatant about it, SMU probably was doing things no worse than Alabama or Oklahoma or Ohio State or Texas or Nebraska or Texas A&M. They just got caught because they were too blatant about it. Nebraska will never go back to the Big 12. Yeah, of course, it's because of the money. I'm just saying geographically and the great rivalries that you had in the Big 12 would be more fitting for your fan base, and they'll probably enjoy those games a lot more, and it would help you in recruiting. Whereas if you're recruiting players from Texas, their families don't want to go watch Nebraska play Maryland or Nebraska play Rutgers or even Indiana or even Penn State, man. That's a long travel. The money's good in the Big Ten. Yeah, I understand that. But like I said, man, you're already making millions of dollars in all three of these conferences, all four of them. Although the Big 12 and the ACC is behind by quite a bit in millions, they're still making millions. You got to decide, you're already making good money in the Big 12. Maybe not, you won't make as much as you make in the Big 10, but would your fan base be happier in the Big 12 or the SEC as opposed to Big 10 and just take a few million pay cut and be back in your natural rivalries, that kind of deal? Like I said, I wouldn't mind trading Nebraska for Texas A&M, or hell, keep Texas A&M, whisper sweet nothings in their ear and tell them how sorry you are about letting Texas's long turd ass in, and keep Texas A&M in tow, and then try to talk Nebraska into join the SEC. It would be a slight pay cut, but not much. Nebraska and the SEC would fit. Geographically, weather-wise, maybe not. But y'all have an advantage over us. Y'all can bring us up to Nebraska in November. It's cold as shit. Maybe that'd help you. Now, I've heard a lot of people argue that in the Big Ten, that if the SEC had to come up here and play games in November, they would beat their ass because of the weather. But I don't know if I'm buying that because it gets pretty cold here in Alabama. And it gets cold here. People don't realize that. Now, down in South Florida, it don't. But in Alabama, it got down to 15 degrees here in February and in January. So it gets cold here. So I don't think any Frosty the Snowman or snowballs are going to help Michigan, Ohio State get over on Alabama or Georgia or Oklahoma or Texas. Those 4 teams I would take against any team in the Big Ten anytime. Yes, I know Michigan beat Alabama, but I'd say 9 times out of 10 I would take Alabama or Georgia to beat Ohio State or Michigan anywhere. It could be in Ann Arbor, could be at the toilet seat in Columbus, or it could be, hell, it could be in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Still think we can beat them. Yes, Cal is making more money. UCLA is getting screwed. I agree with that. But that's the ass backwards way that is the state of California, Donnie. And that's why people are moving out of the state of California. Because all the spastic ass liberals putting their noses in shit where they don't belong. And that's the topic we were talking about earlier. Could the Big Ten be forced into maybe adding Cal to help UCLA and maybe even Stanford? I mean, the Big Ten does brag about being AAU, blah, 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 academia inclined, and that matters more to us than athletics, horse shit. We all know it's horse shit because they fixed it up to where Notre Dame can get AAU status. And Notre Dame is not a research institution. Notre Dame got AAU status pushed through so that they could possibly join the Big Ten in the near future, in my opinion. But since the Big Ten is so hypocritical about pumping their chest out about that shit, well, then they should have to add California and Stanford. I mean, their academic prowess is just off the chain. Like I was saying with Jonathan earlier, hell, add Harvard and Yale too. Bring them back from back in the day. Nebraska and A&M should go back to the Big 12, says Fred Bagley. They would have to take a nice little pay cut, but like I was telling Scott Schrader, maybe that would be worth it in order to get back to your natural rivalries and get back to more of a natural feel as far as teams that you're playing and the appreciation and the culture that is the heartland of America and the southwest and southeast regions of the United States. They all have a different appreciation for different things, as opposed to a lot of people up north and out there in California, if you know what I'm saying. Oklahoma goes back to Big 12 and Nebraska should. Well, I don't think Fred's just doing it to slight you, saying that Nebraska should give up on the Big 10, Scott. I don't think that's what we're trying to say here. I'm just trying to say that it would make your fans happier. You'd get to play teams that are more, in your wheelhouse as far as culture goes. That's why I said Nebraska would be a good add for the SEC. I think Nebraska to the SEC would be a good thing. It'll probably never happen. But I'll tell you one thing that could happen that Jonathan sort of discounted. I really think that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to merge one day. It's going to be like the AFL and the NFL back in the day, if you know your history in sports. They used to be 2 different leagues. And they ended up merging. They both had different commissioners. Then they had one. And that's what's going to happen in the SEC. I'd be willing to bet that one day that the SEC and the Big Ten will merge, and they will push out the remaining teams from the Big 12 and the ACC into a lower tier kind of league, sort of like we used to have with Division I AA. I could see that happening. What they'll do is they'll probably cherry pick the ACC. The Big 10 and the SEC will both probably take 4 teams apiece from the ACC and then go over and take maybe 1 or 2 from the Big 12. And I think that it'll microcosm down to somewhere between, I don't know, maybe 60 to 66 teams, maybe 70 tops. So right now you got, 130-something teams? I think it can microcosm down anywhere from 50 to 70. What do y'all think? Nebraska will be competitive soon. Rule is building the program. I agree with you, Scott. I'm just saying that as far as teams that you're playing, man, to sell tickets, to bring passion to the game, man. Nebraska versus Indiana, as opposed to Nebraska versus Ole Miss. You know, Indiana's a middle-of-the-road team. Ole Miss is up and down. They're doing good right now, but usually they're middle of the road. Even Mississippi State. I'd much rather watch my team play Mississippi State than Indiana in football. That's all I'm saying. Nebraska to the SEC, to me, would be an ideal situation. Now, if that didn't happen, going back to the Big 12 wouldn't be completely bad, especially if the Big 12 were to get some more teams, and they're getting the 4 from the Pac-12, and they're also probably going to add whoever's left over from the ACC, Scott. So the Big 12 will probably be the last standing conference outside the Big 10 and the SEC if we end up having a conference that's able to withstand the Big 10 and the SEC's push to try to take over, basically. The Big 12 has the best chance of withstanding that. The ACC is they're going to go by the wayside just like the Pac-12. Brad Bagley says, good luck, Scott. I'd love to see NU relative again. I would love to see Nebraska be relative again, too. Not relative to the point where they're beating Alabama or Oklahoma, but relative to the point where if Alabama and Oklahoma's down, Nebraska's winning the national championship. How about that? All the red teams sticking together. Alabama, Oklahoma, Nebraska, the heartland of America, the heartland of the South. Just good old-fashioned football, man. Just good old-fashioned people. Donnie said he'd like to see Nebraska and West Virginia in the SEC. Yeah, my buddy Cuz would love to hear you say that, because that would bail them out. Because I have a bad feeling, like I said, the Big 12 may be the only one that can stand up and stay around. And I don't even think that's going to happen. I think eventually the Big 10 and the SEC are going to get together and say, you know what, we're tired of sharing. What we're going to do is we're going to take the best of the best from the rest. We're going to take the best of the best from the rest, that being the Big 12 and the ACC, and the rest of them can go join Conference USA or Mountain West, and they can form their own little subdivision like 1AA. That's what's going to happen. And like I said, I think it's going to be between anywhere from 50 to 70 teams. Crimson red and scarlet red. That's right. You know, Georgia's is red too, but theirs is sort of like a rip-off. Looks like a faded-out red, almost orange shirt from Dollar General jerseys. That's what Georgia's shit looks like. They look like Dollar General red. All right, guys and gals, if y'all ain't got anything else for me, y'all got any more questions, I'm fixing to get up out of here. This live stream will go to podcast, so if you want to watch it later, hit the like, share, comment, and subscribe button. Share me out to all your friends. I need as many subscribers as we can get, as we're getting really close to that 5,000 mark, which is a big milestone for YouTube to push our channel and to push our algorithm out to more people. 5,000 is a huge milestone that we need to get to. Right now, we're at 4,510. So, ain't got much further to go. We're almost there. And with that, KMCA to all the other teams, class is now officially dismissed.